took the job of covering local government.
It's not, the pen's not ready to go. The phone's ready to push to record.
We are live, ladies and gentlemen. Our clock up there is a little fast. Like PNC, there's like 20. Of course, that's a big one too. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to call to order this Johnson County Board of Commissioners public meeting on this Monday, September 23rd, 2024 at 10 o'clock a.m. Please pray with us if you would care to, and then we'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Would you bow with me for a moment of prayer, please? Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for the little bit of rain we've had here the last couple of days. I'm looking forward to some more. Our county surely does need the rain. Dear Lord, I'd just like to offer a special prayer today for all the employees of the Johnson County government. What a great bunch of people they are, and dedicated servants to the people and taxpayers of our county. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Opening of sealed bids for Johnson County Highway Department temporary salt dome project.
Katrina?
All right, the first bid is from Boyle Construction Management. And their bid is for $637,000, 637,000.00. Next bidder is Duke Commercial. Their bid is $624,750, 624,750.00. Next bidder is White Oak Commercial Group. Their bid is $604,627, 604,627. And last but not least is Will Power Construction Management, and their bid is the least at $337,000, 337,000.00. Will Power Construction Management, LLC.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well,
I would make a motion to turn them over to myself and Wes Harrison to take a look at these, review, come back with a recommendation at our next meeting.
second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much to the bidders. We appreciate that. Proclamation of the 237th anniversary of Constitution Week, September 17th through the 23rd, 2024. Do we want anyone?
Sheriff's going to read that aloud for us since he's a proud member of supports the Constitution.
And from memory.
Makes a difference to set up here and sit out there this time. No, I'm just,
Sheriff, comment?
Jeff, for me, he's the spokesperson. I'll get him at the community corrections meeting next month.
Do we want to read that?
I would probably, somebody needs to read it. No, I guess, since I appointed the sheriff and he put me back as spokesman, I'll read it.
You're on.
Whereas it is the privilege and duty of the American people to commemorate the 237th anniversary of the drafting of the Constitution of the United States of America with appropriate ceremonies and activities. And whereas Public Law 915 guarantees the issuing of a proclamation each year by the President of the United States of America designating September 17th through September 23rd as Constitution Week. Now therefore, we, by virtue of the authority vested in us as Johnson County Commissioners of the state of Indiana, do hereby proclaim the week of September 17th through the 23rd as Constitution Week, and urge all citizens to study the Constitution and reflect the privilege of being an American, with all the rights and responsibilities which that privilege involves. In witness thereof, we have hereto set our hands and caused the seal of the state of Indiana, county of Johnson, to be affixed this 23rd day of September of the year our Lord 2024, Board of Johnson County Commissioners, Indiana. There it is, folks. Support it.
Assume we need to move.
I move to accept it.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion carries. I gotta ask this question before we move on, is how many people have read the Constitution?
I don't think I've read the whole thing. I've read a majority of it.
How about
I read it.
Hands,
anybody out there?
there's one.
And I just to make a suggestion, I would say if you haven't read it, it's really a good read. And what I would like for you to notice when you read it is how many things are in there that we say are not, and then how many things are not in there that we say there are. And come to your own conclusion on where we're going with the Constitution, because it sure is a mixed bag from what I hear all the time. So just wanted to put that out there. It's good bedtime reading, if nothing else. Public Safety Mutual Aid update. Who have I got here for that? Anybody? I guess they must have forgot. Jeremy Pale was supposed to be here. He's on his way. He's late, so we'll move that.
We'll move that down.
Yeah, I didn't get anything from him, so I probably haven't looked at my text lately.
Okay.
Anyway, we'll move that for just a moment here. Elected officials and department heads, VASIA, approval to apply for the Indiana Supreme Court State VASIA grant.
I don't see Lauren here.
She's not gonna be here.
She wasn't gonna be here.
This
I
is
got
just,
that
it's an
email.
annual one.
I move to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Approval, under clerk, approval of Wycom maintenance license and support agreement renewal, which is also an annual, is it not?
And Trina's gonna come up and speak. Maybe she could read
Good
the
morning,
Constitution.
Trina
We just didn't want to
McLaughlin.
let her get out of here too early to head
Right.
south.
Any questions?
Page 34, paragraph 2, there's I'm just kidding. No, move to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thanks, Trina. Sorry to bother you. Highway, we have 4 items. I'll let them, they always confuse me. Go ahead.
Good morning, Daniel Johnston, Highway Engineer. Our first item is requesting your approval and execution of change orders number 2 and 3 for our Bridge 605 project. This is located on the west side of the intersection of State Road 135 and Fry Road. The Change order number 2 was actually requested by NDOT to adjust one of the entrances, or the other entrance, I should say, into the Sable Ridge subdivision. They're intending for these changes, they added some tough guard barrier, I think is what it's called, just to restrict left turns out of the subdivision. It's more of a safety concern that NDOT was trying to resolve. There's no additional cost to the county and no added time to the contract. Change order number 3 was actually to revise some of the proposed loop detectors at the intersection of the new bridge. We're going to use preformed loop detectors to be placed in the bridge deck. It's more of a constructability issue. And there's also, there was a slight decrease in the overall contract price, but no adjustment to the contract time.
Move to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion carries.
Next, we are requesting your approval and execution of the construction inspection contract, our Bridge 98 project. That is on 700 East, just north of Ermeyville Road. This will be with Aegis BLN. They'll be the consultant. The contract amount will be $225,900. And in my memo last week, I mentioned that NDOT was still reviewing. We actually did receive their approval on Friday.
Move to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion carries.
Third, we are requesting your approval of the 2024 Fit at the Farm special event. It's an annual event in Clark Township benefiting, or sponsored by the Kelsey Farms and benefiting the Clark Pleasant Education Foundation. We've reviewed all the documentation. They've provided all the checkpoint agency approvals. They have also received their certificate of insurance, so your approval will actually be pending that they provide a indemnification and hold harmless agreement.
Move to approve.
Second.
Yeah.
I have a motion and a second to approve pending that certification. Any further discussion?
I would just encourage everybody to get out some of these fall activities, get outside, do it, walk, watch, go, just visit, just go to the site, see what's going on. It's good, it's fun. There's a few of them coming up this fall, so.
Yeah, some of them you get to drink wine.
I don't think this is a whiner, but
Oh, there'll be some whiners.
they've got some neat things at Kelsey Farms. All these venues around the county have some really, really good things to do. Get your family out and go do it.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion carries.
And then our last item is requesting a bid date for our 2024 pavement marking project. We're requesting your meeting on October 14th as the bid date. This will be a 100% locally funded project, and we are actually refining the list of roads that will receive the pavement markings. We're going to focus on a lot of our higher functional classification roads and road segments that we've received citizen concerns about as well.
Yeah, I talked to Luke here recently about striping, and I was somewhat interested in the fact that Luke said that on certain roads, if they don't have the traffic volume, that it doesn't require striping. And I think from a safety hazard, wouldn't make a whole lot of difference whether you got 1,000 cars a day or 20 cars a day. If it's a safety issue, when you go ahead and stripe them anyway?
There's some broad, maybe not broad, but there is some leeway, I guess, between whether it's based on the functional classification, the traffic volume, like Luke mentioned, and including the roadway width. There's a concern if a road is too narrow, some of our more rural or narrow roads, if you put the yellow center line down the middle of the road, that could potentially make vehicles think that they have to drive on a shorter side for their direction of travel. So I can understand your point. I mean, we do evaluate a lot of the roads. There's certainly some engineering judgment that comes into to factor in the safety issues, especially if there's been a history of accidents in certain segments.
Well, I would, and I can understand the center line, but I would think the outer line, the white line on the edge, would be even more needed on a narrow road like that, especially at night when it's raining or something, in some of these country roads. I mean, it's hard to determine, and especially on a narrow road, you're passing another car, pretty soon you're off the road and down in a ditch or something. It's just a thought. I think from a safety issue that and maybe it's budgetary concerns, I don't know, but I'd try to get some kind of striping on some of them.
I know though in the past, and kudos to y'all, that we've had a complaint on a road or two where we've actually gone out and put stripes on it, even though it wasn't required, because of some people getting off the road or saying that, they'd run off the road because you can't see the edge. So they do take those, under advisement on the situation like that. But I get it. And I don't care how many stripes you put down the center of my road, nobody's going to abide by it. They're always in the middle of it. I don't care who they are. And down where I'm at, the stripes don't mean anything to those people. They like going off-road too, so it works out pretty good for them, not having any boundaries, so.
With this, Daniel, this is expected to be done in the year 24, or is this going to push to 25?
There's a possibility, we will certainly prioritize a lot of the road segments to be done
I know
this
weather's
fall.
a big factor, and we're pushing into the middle to late of October to release this. I think that kind of worries me a little bit, getting into November, December, then you're stuck.
Yeah.
So-
We'll certainly have the contractor do as many as they can within 24.
Okay, that's good.
Move to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further?
Thanks, Daniel.
Thank you.
Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lou. Planning and zoning, approval of lease continuance for continuance, I can't read because I marked it all up, for the flood buyout parcels. And then, gentlemen, if we can do all these at once.
Well, I got some discussion before she gets started, or we can wait and then we'll just,
Do it during
I've got
discussion.
some discussion on this.
We can do all the lease approvals together. I would, that's all fine.
And I'll read the last two segments there because they are different, but then everything else is the same anyway. So I'll just verbally read the 14, 13, and the dash after that prior to approval. Go ahead.
Okay. Michelle Hanser, Director of Planning and Zoning. Before you are 4 continuance leases to 4 property owners with 6 parcels overall that we have acquired during the flood buyout of 2008. These are continuance leases that they already have existing leases for the last 10 years. This lease will allow them to continue to utilize that property for another 10 years.
And now I got some questions.
Go ahead.
I know with this FEMA buyout, I know they put huge restrictions on this because of flood that went through. I know with the construction of I-69 now, has that changed that flood map that would give us the ability to relook at that?
They have not changed the flood map or done a flood study on that area.
But is
yet.
that NDOT set to do, is to set that flood map? Will NDOT set that flood map, or who sets the flood map? Since they've put the
yeah.
interstate in and changed.
I am not sure.
These are 10-year leases on
Yes.
these, aren't they? That's why I'm kind of hesitant.
I think the federal government sets the flood maps.
Yes.
But I just need to know if 69, I've heard 69 has changed that would bring this property back to being viable property, because it cannot be sold. It can only be gardened and cut. You can't sell this ground.
Can't build on it either.
You can't build anything on it, so it's just sterile land.
I see Luke walking up. Is there something?
Maybe Luke can answer some of these questions. I just don't want to get ourselves into a 10-year lease on this stuff and something changes and we're
Luke
boxed.
Maston, Highway Supervisor. I didn't get to talk before, so. morning, Michelle.
I figured you were, I was hoping you
I
were
knew you
still
couldn't
out there.
resist, yeah.
We actually looked pretty closely at what NDOT improvements were going under the interstate there near Bluff Acres, because that area always floods. There were not significant improvements made in terms of what the cross structure was. So we could certainly study the area, but I don't know that it would change very much, the flood area.
Can't we make these leases pending that if there is a change in that plan, that we would be able to
Well, I think
terminate
the
those
lease
leases?
allows a mutual agreement to terminate. So if that were to change in the future, we explain to FEMA, hey, they're no longer in a floodplain.
Thank you, Luke.
Thanks,
then
Luke.
I think we would be able to go back and
It's not what I wanted to hear.
I know. That's why I said.
And Kevin, just gave me a second to think. I know of other flood studies that they have done. If FEMA does a study or DNR, it takes at least 5 to 10 years
I
for
know
them
it
to
does.
adopt any new flood map, so.
I'm just looking at a 10-year lease. I don't want to sign us into something that could change in 3 to 5 years.
Yeah.
Because it's going to be,
Not at FEMA's rate, it won't change at that
it's
rate.
just south of the Smith Valley Road interchange, so it's going to become a very valuable asset to someone in the county. But if this FEMA stays in place, it's useless to anybody.
Yeah.
That's kind of the crutch that I'm looking at, so. How do we need to look at this? Do we need to approve it pending? I guess the lease would,
I think from our end, the leases are all fine to be approved. Michelle, I forget, aren't some of these already technically expired?
Yes, I didn't know if we wanted to backdate them or continue, or start the lease today.
I think we would just start the lease from today. So I mean,
if we don't start the lease. Is FEMA gonna come after us?
I don't think.
no,
we want
it
to-
just, it prevents the adjacent
we need
property
the
owner from being able
liability
to
protection
use the
is what we
property
need. Yeah,
that they otherwise.
otherwise there'll be a conflict.
Just for the
Already
public
got it.
certification, these leases, these 10-year leases are for $1 a year. That's the amount that people pay, $1 a year.
We haven't had to go collect them or claim them back yet. Everybody's paid up.
Yeah, and the intent behind this, of course, was we had to maintain those properties, and by entering into these lease arrangements, those people that are now leasing the property, they do maintain it, and of course, they got utilization of it, which makes it a win-win for everybody.
And there are a few that are not leased. But
Yeah,
But as you heard us speak, they're highly restricted. You can put a garden on it, and you can cut the grass on it. You can't build anything on it, you can't do anything else on it. So
we cannot sell it to
you
anybody.
can't sell it.
Right.
No, there's been people try to buy them. So it's sterile ground. Basically, you can't do anything with it, and that's kind of what bothers me a little bit. But I'm going to move to approve the leases reluctantly.
second?
I have a motion and a second, and prior to us approving these, I'm going to read the last segment, and the previous to the last segment, just so we know for public record which ones these are. 14-008, 14-035, 13-015, 13-014, 13-004, and 13-007, all under 41-04-05. And then after that, .00-038, just for sake of clarification. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Ordinance 2024-Z-2, an ordinance of the Johnson County Board of Commissioners for the adoption of the Unified Development Ordinance.
All right, before you is our new Unified Development Ordinance that was certified to the Board of Commissioners from the Johnson County Plan Commission at their August 26th meeting. The Johnson County Plan Commission voted unanimously to a favorable recommendation for adoption of this ordinance. At this time, I will hand it over to our consultant to give you guys a brief explanation of this ordinance.
Thanks, Michelle. I think we have a PowerPoint too, we can get revved up there.
Good morning, everybody. My name's Matthew O'Rourke. I'm the Planning and Economic Development Group Leader with American Structure Point, one of the consultant firms that were brought in to help guide this process and provide our expertise as we revamped what we're now calling the Johnson County Unified Development Ordinance. With me here in the audience is Martin Spink, one of our associate planners, and then there are two folks that were heavily involved in this they're not here today, but want to make sure I mention them. One is David Baird, who's a member of our team, and also KK Gerhardt Fritz, who is with the planning workshop. We were the team that was brought in to go through this ordinance and update it. Is that ready to go in presentation mode? So with that, today we just wanted to provide a very high-level general overview of the process and what's in the ordinance. We'll highlight some specifics as well as we go through this to give you kind of a flavor of what's in there and what it currently looks like compared to what the new ordinance will look like. Essentially, our job here was to come in and modernize the ordinance. There were a lot of standards that worked well in Johnson County over the years. They still worked well, so we didn't come in here and change many of those things, but what we wanted to do is streamline it, update it, bring it into conformance with modern best practices and also some state or federal laws that have changed based on Supreme Court decisions, things of that nature over the last 10 years. We call it a unified development ordinance because it's actually taking two current sections of your code and combining it into one. It's the zoning ordinance sections and also the subdivision. We do this for a lot of reasons, but I think the most advantageous part to highlight is that now you have one set of definitions to define what a subdivision is. You have one set of definitions for what a sign is, et cetera, et cetera. Really, you can lead to a lot of, you have to kind of make some judgment calls when you have multiple things of doing or you have to work that out. We really try to put it all together so it's in one place. It's easier to interpret, makes your jobs as elected officials and also staffs much easier that way. There we go. So a little bit also what we do when we go through it, we update it, we put in best practices. We also like to add tables, charts, graphs. Example of one here on the screen is the minor subdivision process. Not only do we put the codes and statutes in there, we like to put flow charts, things like that, really to help make this a more usable document. It's so you can flow and you can follow this path from application to approval. That's really what we try to do. We want to make this something that people can use, and we'll have some more examples of that later down the road and provide a lot of clarity through these graphics that really embellish what we've done in the code itself. So a couple of key things just to highlight. I won't go through all these, but as we worked through the process, there were some things we wanted to update. In particular, there's some policy documents out there related to I-69, like we were just talking about, making sure if there's anything from that document, the policy that needed to be put in the code. We did that through updating the overlay district standards. Multifamily dwelling districts used to only allow those types of dwellings, so apartments, things of that nature. Now, if you look at it, it allows other types of homes like townhomes, duplexes, things like that. So a lot of what we were trying to do is make sure all these kind of one-off pieces were integrated and made a little more sense so that you could have more use types in these different zoning districts where they made sense. We incorporated wellhead protection standards and also really spent a lot of time on the uses themselves, consolidated some by combining their definitions. The example of that I like to point out is, I don't know if we needed to have beauty parlor, hair salon, and barbershop defined as separate uses. So now those are all just listed under something called personal services. Again, it's about clarity and making it easier to interpret. And we took a lot of those that were listed as what we call special exceptions that go through the Plan Commission public hearing process, where it didn't really make sense to keep them in that category. We changed them to just permitted uses and those sorts of things. So that was one of the bigger changes. The zoning districts have to be renamed. I'm going to talk about that in a couple more slides with an example. We looked at a lot of the variance cases. One of the things we did when we started this process is kind of crawl through all the recent approvals and variances, denials, that sort of thing, and look for ones that are being approved a lot. One of them happened to be the size of accessory structures on agricultural property. So that's one of the things we updated. We made sure that these just make sense. So folks that are just going to have a variance approved regardless don't have to go through that process anymore. We try to look for common sense examples like that, where if it's something the county's doing sort of as a practice anyway, we just incorporate that in the code and make it part of the procedures and the rules. We looked at home occupations to make sure those made sense, and then provided a little bit of standards on short-term rentals, or more commonly like Airbnb type situations. We spent a lot of time on subdivisions. That was, as we went through this process, we talked to our stakeholder groups, that was something that there's a lot of different types of subdivision processes, and some of them would just approved administratively, some would go all the way through the process. So we spent a lot of time thinking about that, streamlining that, but also making sure each type of subdivision had a very well-defined process. The best example of that I could think of is the roadside subdivisions. They used to come in and just were sort of approved or exempt almost. They're now part of the minor subdivision process. And that's not gonna, and the way the minor subdivision process is, that's gonna be more of a staff-driven approval process, so it's not gonna speed up, or excuse me, slow down the time frame to approval so much. It just gives staff a chance to review it, make sure there isn't some easements that need to be put in place or some other type of considerations, just to make sure that it's getting a set of eyes on it instead of it being just exempt and folks doing it without staff's knowledge in some cases. There we go. This slide, we just wanted to highlight all the different chapters. Pretty similar to how it's laid out now with the incorporation of the subdivision standards. Like I said, they're all in one ordinance title now. They're not in separate chapters any longer. And then what we always like to do at the end is put in appendices that help clarify or provide those tables and graphs I was thinking about. And just one item to point out, the general structure is we like to have some of the more general introductory provisions up front and then get right into the meat of the zoning ordinance. Oftentimes you'll find definitions kind of at the front. Something we do different is we want the zoning districts, the standards, the things that people are really interested in when they're coming in for a permit or trying to figure out what's allowed on their property. We put them up front and center so they're easier to find. Then we put the definitions and other more technical items at the back. So it's just an organizational structure that we found just works better for clients over time, and that's how this is laid out. With that, in one of the appendices, all the permitted uses for all the zoning districts are listed together in one table. It's a way for a quick reference. People can just go back there and say, all right, what's a permitted use? What's identified as US is a use standard. What that is, it's kind of like a permitted use. You don't have to go through a process, but there are additional standards in one of our chapters, such as, you know, it's a car wash, it can't be within 300 feet of a residence, things like that, just to put some ways to help provide guidance on those, but not necessarily require a process to go through that approval. It's just some extra things you have to do. And then we still have special exceptions. Those are the ones that people want to probably have some say in. We'll go through either the public process through the plan, or excuse me, through a public hearing, be vetted by the plan commission, those things. There are still some uses out there. We definitely recommend stay in that category. And they're all identified here by district across the columns and then uses as you go down the rows. So somebody can kind of see what they're zoned at, get to this chart really quick is the point, and see exactly what's what on their property. We like to do this as well with bulk standards. Just, again, these are all in the zoning district standards themselves, but we like to re-summarize them in a table at the end. It's just another way to make it easier, so you know what your setbacks are, your minimum lot widths, et cetera, all by districts, so you can kind of contrast and compare, see where they're all at. And then the final appendix, this is a reference. One of the things we did was rename all the zoning districts. That's just to make them be a little more self-descriptive of what their purpose is, such as agricultural or agricultural residential. You can see here, they're pretty much the same. There's almost a one-for-one. What this table does is show you where the old zoning district's named and how that compares to the new one in case you ever need to go back and cross-reference that. The other thing to highlight is there are a couple, you'll see R1 and R2. They're now just one zoning district. When we jumped into that district, or those two, they were very similar. Very small, minute differences between the two, so we just consolidated those into one zoning district to make it a little easier. You can see the same thing with B1 and B2 in the current ordinance. The new one just has one zoning district called general commercial. It's another way to help streamline things and not keep it so specific and parsed out where you don't have, less interpretation and less ability to misinterpret something as a resident developer or anybody like that. I just wanted to highlight the process. There's a whole lot of words in there. We went through all the existing documents as part of this process. We started working with Michelle and her team approximately 17 months ago, and I know they've been working on it much longer than that. Went through all the existing documents, the existing ordinances, the zoning variances, all those things that I mentioned earlier to make sure we're considering all them as part of this plan. Really wanted to talk to the stakeholders, the landowners, realtors, brokers, developers, people that work with this ordinance, and it impacts their day-to-day life as they go about their daily routines. So we had a whole day devoted to just sitting down in 1-hour sessions and talking with those folks. That's how we learned a lot about the subdivision standards and, some of the interesting nuances that were going on there that really led us to focusing on those efforts. This is a big part of what we do, is making sure it's not just us sitting in a room coming up with new standards. We want to make sure we hear from the community as well. We had a series of check-in meetings with Michelle and her team throughout this process, always to make sure we're on track and also that we're thinking about the things the way we need to make sure it works for Johnson County. I always like to say we don't have what I call pride of authorship. We're here to help you put your vision into words, and that's what those check-in meetings are all about. And we also had an ordinance advisory team who met several times throughout this process, checking in with them all along the way, especially on the bigger topics where we knew there's going to be some discussion items. And this was made a group of representatives that all involved in the county, but sort of had a different viewpoint, but all worked in the county and or lived here. And here's the list of those folks there. You can see fire marshals, plan commission members, developers, residents, agricultural landowners. They were all part of this group to make sure we were hearing what Johnson County wanted. And they were definitely our litmus test throughout this whole process. And then we had a formal public open house meeting here with the Plan Commission, went through the whole code, and we had boards set up, it was open to the public, so people could come in and see. We had some members there, and then after that, we ended up having multiple public hearings. The Plan Commission had a lot of great comments, a lot of great feedback, which resulted in some tweaks and items, and then at the last one on August 26th, you see they gave the 6-0 favorable recommendation after we worked through all those, and that's what brought us here this morning to talk to you folks. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions, or if there's anything you'd like me to go over in more detail.
Just briefly, under the industrial district, and Commissioner Walls brought this up this morning, special exceptions, could you just maybe briefly tell us the process for wind energy systems, commercial, what they would have to do?
Yeah, so that's a special exception, which means it would have to go through the formal public hearing approval process through the Plan Commission and ultimately be voted on by this group. So similar to how special exceptions now work, they have to be vetted to go through that whole process before they can do anything with the property.
And that recommendation comes to the commissioners, right?
Yes.
No?
Ultimately.
Michelle saying no.
Are you talking about the solar and wind
Yeah.
considerations? So.
Wind specifically,
Okay,
Oh, the wind, okay.
wind
Yeah,
specific.
and I believe that's, like for the existing ordinance. They go special exception to the Board of Zoning Appeals.
I apologize, I misspoke. I meant Board of Zoning Appeals.
But that goes to the Board of Zoning Appeals. It does not come to you guys. Because it's not a
don't like
zoning
that.
property.
I don't like that either.
I don't like that either.
No.
Other counties are putting moratoriums in place. Maybe we should consider that to stop that.
Like I said, this is what's, I think, it's been a long time since I've looked in wind energy, but, obviously state statute has wind energy guidance and stuff like that, what we can and cannot do, but I don't, the only thing that's been prevalent is the solar stuff, but, I think we just transitioned what was already existing in the ordinance, but we can.
Yeah, we didn't modify that in any great detail. It's
We need
the same
probably-
process now.
Yeah, I'd like to see us look into that further. I know, that bill that was defeated probably
We'll come back.
will come back, so we need to make sure we look at that. That needs to be under our local control, if possible. Not just the Board of Zoning Appeals, that needs to come to us.
So
I mean,
if you don't adopt the ordinance as presented today, it will trigger another round of potential for public hearings. We'd have to, you can consider suggestions or changes within 90 days of the certification from when'd you send the certification? The 18th, I think it was.
I won't approve it. I won't approve it.
So we can delay it to review that, and then eventually, if you're gonna make changes to the ordinance, you then send it back to the Plan Commission for their review. And then either they accept or reject your proposals. If they accept it, then everything's fine. If they reject it, then it's gonna take another vote by this body to basically affirm this body's changes to impact the ordinance.
Yeah, I think we could go ahead and approve it today and then look at the language that we deem necessary in there to give us certain protections and then move for those
You guys are
changes
looking
later.
for, oversight of wind farms?
Yeah, home
Yeah.
rule is the term that can be used, home rule on that, any decision on.
I mean, you've done a good job of addressing the solar with the protections you put in with that. With some of this wind stuff, you can't protect a 300-foot tall windmill that's whizzing around constantly.
Sure.
And that's what my concern is with this, that there's not enough restrictions in here to prohibit that unless we put something in place, but I don't know how this is gonna counteract with your plan now, so.
I mean, if it's a positive thing, no one's reached out to our office in the last 6 years about wind farms.
But it only takes one, they've hit
It's-
neighboring counties, and
Yeah, there's been a
I've been involved
move.
with some of that,
I mean,
so.
I'm involved at the state level, of course, as everybody knows, with the county commissioners, and there's a move now, and a lot, like I said, a lot of counties are doing moratoriums, which is an option we can look at. But I'd still rather handle it through planning and zoning if we can.
Sure. Yeah, and I think Mr. West's suggestion is what I was gonna say, is if you wanna move forward with the whole ordinance today, then just, we can direct staff to work on a supplemental amendment that could go back through the process as its own amendment to work on some of those items. That would be something you could do too.
That's a less complicated process
Yeah.
and serves a purpose. So I move to approve the adoption of our new ordinance.
The one thing I heard before I vote, I'll second that. We haven't voted yet, so. The one thing now can we have a discussion?
We absolutely can.
The one comment I heard you say is common sense. And I hope to heck that this thing has a lot of common sense in it. I really do. I mean, I come from the building background,
So do I.
and I know Brian does too. And I know that it's difficult enough to get through this process of building permits within each different area you work. I've worked all around the Midwest. And some of them are a huge obstacle. And I hope this, I mean, the whole 529 pages, no, I did not read the whole 529 pages. I looked over it, I hit some highlights in it and tried to find out. It seemed pretty
274.
well. But until you get into the weeds on this and you're on the other side coming in, I want to be user-friendly.
Yeah.
And I hope, like I said, I hope to heck this is user-friendly.
Yeah, just a quick note on that. I didn't mention it in the introduction, but myself, David, KK, we all spent the majority of our careers in the public sector doing jobs just like Michelle's. And so we bring that with us and put that in the ordinance for just those reasons. We've had to be here and administrate codes that don't make sense. And so it's a big focal point for us is to make sure what we're doing is what we just said. Now, I will caveat that by saying it is a zoning code, so there are.
Oh, I know,
There's
you have
zoningese
to have
in there somewhere.
restrictions, I fully believe that, but then there's some non-common sense. I heard you say common sense, I like that, so I just hope the application is in the documents.
Yep, very much so.
So-
That's a goal of ours always.
Okay.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Oh, I could keep going on this, but I'm
I
not.
know you can. So can I. For the sake of boring the people.
Yeah.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries with amendments that we will
Thank you.
discuss in the future.
Michelle, you can sleep tonight.
Thank you all. I really appreciate your time today.
All right, I just have one more.
Wait, hold on. For clarification's sake, so we don't miss a step here, are we adopting the ordinance as presented with the goal
With future
eventually to do
amendments.
that? Or are you sending back the amendments right now to the planning
With-
commission?
With future amendments considered.
Okay, so as of today, we're going to consider the ordinance passed as presented, correct?
As
presented.
Yes, sir.
Just making
As
sure.
presented. Sorry.
That's okay.
No, it's okay.
Just want to make sure we don't,
Yeah, I know. I like to
Not do
confuse
something.
people. That's what I do.
All right, so the third item on the thing is actually kind of relates to what the ordinance that you guys just passed. And I appreciate that. It's been a long year and a half on this process. But before you is the flood control ordinance, which was already placed in the zoning ordinance. However, when we discussed the Unified Development Ordinance and what the state prefers, as far as state, I mean DNR, Department of Natural Resources, when they audit us on our flood protection standards and all that, they always like us to have a separate ordinance, but until then, it's always been part of our ordinance. So just as a formality, I literally copied and pasted and modified the section numbers and stuff to correlate with the new section, but it is just a standalone document that has flood control over the flood hazard areas of Johnson County unincorporated.
State gets us again.
Don't they always?
They like their certain languages that don't
know
correspond
that.
with our language for some reason.
At our expense.
Yeah. Ours is simpler. That's the problem.
It's that thing called
Sorry.
common sense.
Well,
That's why I like working here.
yeah, the only comments I have in regard to the flood control ordinances is that the state, and DNR in particular, contributes to much of the flooding that we witness around the state through their processes. You know, one of the things, they introduced beavers back into the state a few years back, and now a lot of our tributaries are dammed up from the beavers. The other thing, and I run into this quite often with homeowners, where their property lines are the center line of a stream behind their house, as an example, and it's building up in debris and one thing and another, clogging it up, but DNR doesn't clean it out. They leave it up to the homeowner. Well, the homeowner can only clean out their half, and the other people on the other side. But DNR does nothing to assist in this. In fact, I think they hamper the process a good deal.
They absolutely do.
Anyway, I move to approve ordinance 2024-Z-3.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, guys.
She just wanted to get away from the podium.
Yeah, she just wants out of here. Before we go to Board of Commissioners, if y'all are okay with it, I'd like to slide Chief Pell in here to give this mutual aid update. And just as he's coming up, I met with Chief Pell and Director of our 911 Services, Heath Brandt, the other day to talk about the improvements that we're trying to make everything better. Kevin, you had brought up a question that I wanted to make sure that I got into at a couple meetings ago, I think. But anyway, I wanted to, Jeremy, they've done a really good job. I want to say this. They've done a really good job bringing this together and for the citizens of Johnson County. But what I really want Jeremy to stress after he gives this brief update is that the mission that we have in Johnson County, if you would, Jeremy.
You know me well. Here, may I approach and? give
Yes,
this to
sir,
you?
please.
And for the record, I'm Jeremy Pell, Chief of the White River Township Fire Department.
And Jeremy does many things other than being chief at White River Fire Department.
You've been training, did you go to the Bloodhound thing?
Not to a Bloodhound thing, I went to a search and rescue dog crime scene class, and I'm actually an accredited trainer now, and I taught it, so.
I knew they had a Bloodhound in training, I saw it.
Yeah, I worked with Jeremy, training back when I was K-9, search and recovery K-9 officer at the sheriff's office for the school safety programs, and saw his passion for what he was doing at that time, and that passion continued on, and he's done very well in helping the community in his service with these animals and the canines and the positive direction that they've taken this. So again, Jeremy, thank you for that.
Thank you. And I have a certified therapy dog.
Yes, he
with the
does, and
county's
we talked about
disposal.
that,
I work
too.
with the sheriff's post team, the police officer support team after critical incidents.
And great dogs. He's got some
Yeah,
good
thanks
dogs.
for bringing that up. That is definitely a passion that keeps me enthused. I love it, but it does come back to what we're talking about. I grew up here. I said I'm a blessed man, and God has put me in a position, and I was a volunteer firefighter at White River Township Fire Department 35 years ago. I never would have dreamed that I could come back and impact the community and the men and women that I serve the way I do. And for that, I'm very, very fortunate. I'm Johnson County through and through. I'm a public servant through and through. And what Commissioner alluded to was I have a favorite saying, and I got it from another leader, so I can't claim originality for this, but it says is the mission is clearer, the options are fewer, and the decisions become easier. And that is how I lead at the fire department. Our mission is clear, and it's to save a life. Our options are few, the decisions are easier. So that's what we do. We put our heart into serving the community. But the topic today, and I'm not texting, I put my notes on my phone.
That's okay, I have to text during the meetings.
Is how the fire departments are working together. This is as good a relationship as, in all of public safety in Johnson County, as I've seen in my 35-year career. It is extraordinary. And as I get out throughout the state and even the country, it's something we can't take for granted. Sheriffs here and law enforcement, fire, EMS, dispatch, we form a team with a clear mission that serves this community and makes a difference in quality of life and living. I wanted to let the commissioners know and the community know what that means in real life. You have given us extraordinary tools, and with those tools, we're able to serve better. And one of those tools involves dispatch, and it is a portion of the computer-aided dispatch software that's called response plans. And I'm going to give you the simple version, and Bill Foot's here, so he can freely, no ego, he can correct me if I mess up the technical portion of it. But here's the lay portion of this, is with that mission, I don't care what patch, what color truck shows up if my family needs someone. I want the closest appropriate responder there to make a difference in my family's life. The response plans in Spillman allow us to do that as a group of firefighters. So in the old day, if there was a call in White River Township, you got White River Township trucks. With response plans, which is a tool that the commissioners have given us, we can create responses to particular areas that send the closest, most appropriate. So just to give you a couple graphics, I gave you a map of the fire districts. Response plans allows us, instead of looking at a fire district, break it down into individual areas and then custom build the trucks that respond to those individual small areas. The other thing I gave you is a spreadsheet. I love spreadsheets, and it may not mean a whole lot to you, but if you follow along, so the page 1 says fire department accident entrapment. That's the type of call. And in the green column, it says it gets engine 53, engine 52, ladder 51, squad 53, medic 254, battalion 5, and then a fire ground channel. What is important about this is if one of those trucks is out, so White River Township engine 53, the software that you have given us, that the taxpayers have provided us, allows us to say, what's the next closest fire engine? That's the bottom line. So working with Heath and with Bill Foot and the County Fire Chiefs Association, we've all submitted a spreadsheet like this that looks at individual areas in our fire districts and asks the question, what is the closest, most appropriate fire truck or ambulance or chief or squad? And then if that one is on another run, what is the next closest one? That is my update. That can save minutes, and as that mission's clear, then I have to, I have to do everything I can to make sure the options are few and the decisions are easy. Minutes saves heart muscle and brain tissue. It just flat out does. So you have your fire chiefs in Johnson County and your 911 dispatch that are actually sitting down together. Chief Funkhauser, Chief Washell from Greenwood and I had a meeting. We went to lunch a few weeks ago and we talked about this very thing and how we're going to continue to work more closely together because everyone benefits from that. And operationally, we should work as one fire department to serve the people in Johnson County.
And we need to understand too, this program also helps with law enforcement correspondence and with reaction from law enforcement also, which is a big, big deal. And then any other aid that would be needed, EMS, whatever. This all comes together and puts this to more unified, more inclusive, I guess, projection of what we need to do to make sure that the citizens of Johnson County are taken care of in the best way possible. I loved the meeting that we had and the voice of cooperation that I saw in that meeting, and I appreciate not only Jeremy's work, but our sheriff's office, all fire departments, all EMS, even our EMA, and just the cohesiveness we have and the ability to work together as a team. And again, I'll say it, I've said it for the years since I've been here as commissioner, nobody does it better than Johnson County when it's crucial and needed. We're the best in the state, always will be, as we continue to work to make the system work better for everybody in the county. So I want to thank everyone. I want to thank all our public service and all those involved. And also, and this is something we don't think about too often, I want to thank our security here at the annex.
I think about it.
It was what the sheriff's office has provided for us. Not only is it a security for us and the people that are in here, these are very friendly, dedicated officers that tell people how to get to places. They say hi to them when they come in the building. They direct them. It's been just a real positive for us, even down to just a single officer of security in our buildings. What a fantastic operation we have here in Johnson County, and I'll go against anybody in the country. We are the best at what we do. So thank you very much to all of you for that, and thank you for that update. Jeremy, if you have any questions.
I'd like to pull together with just 2 sentences so that the community at large understands this. They have given us incredible resources, and we're stewards of that. You have given us software and tools to allow us to do our job more efficiently. We're going to do that, or we are doing that, and sending the closest, most appropriate. And the people in the community are going to benefit because we're going to be there to make a difference in their lives faster than we would have been had you not, all of us, you not done that for us.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that.
Questions?
Well, I just say I've been presented a lot of spreadsheets in my years, and I've never seen one that baffled me more than this one.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I have no idea
Typically,
what
I
this
could pick out a thing or two. I didn't even, this was total Greek.
Good job, Jeremy.
Thank you for your service.
Yeah.
Yes, if you need your acronym book out here, we'll be all right.
Yeah.
I can certainly get into it deeper, but most times
No,
I
don't.
just have to say, no, that's enough.
And for the sake of time in the public meeting, if they have questions, they know how to get hold of you. You're pretty easy to get hold of, or Bill
Yeah.
Fudd, or even Heath. So anyway, appreciate all everybody's doing. Thank you very much for coming in and giving us that, Jeremy. I appreciate it. I know I was pleased. Under Board of Commissioners, Johnson County opioid, I'm going to say it here in a minute. My eyes aren't clear. Remediation grant program.
Any questions?
Well, the only thing that I had in regard to this is, and I said this in the beginning, I felt like that the pharmaceutical companies were targeted in this opioid settlement. I felt that the doctors who prescribed these drugs bore a certain amount of responsibility, and apparently they escaped that. So what I put emphasis on with this money is prenatal and postnatal care. And my reasoning there is that the other people that this money's going to benefit, they made those choices themselves. And they're dealing with the consequences. But the infants involved in this, the prenatal and postnatal, they didn't have a choice in it, and so many of them have suffered so much trauma in their lives as they grow up as a result of it. So I wanted to see the bulk of this money dedicated to those two areas. In fact, Mayor, if it was up to me, I'd dedicate 100% of this money to those two areas. But I guess the government has stipulated that certain areas that we can use it in now, and we can use it for prenatal and postnatal, but not at the level I'd like to. But that's where my heart's at in with this money, and I just pray that whatever use we do make of it will come to benefit the most people and bring their lives back to a productive and responsible life.
Well, I would give you an update. We are structurally set up now. We're starting to operate. We've had one meeting. I'm going to let Tiffany give you some dates, so we're publicly announcing it today of what we're doing. And yes, we are looking at pre and postnatal. We're dealing with Riley Hospital, only one. So we are addressing that. There's a lot of things to address in this. There's a lot of moving parts. So we have a good group put together. We've had one meeting, like I said, and we're good, ready to move forward. And Tiffany's going to give you some dates and how we're doing this.
So this is our formal announcement of our opioid remediation grant program through Johnson County. The information will be published on our website in addition to the Daily Journal, where I believe there's an article forthcoming. And then we also will put basically a public notice on all of the information. We are requesting proposals for this grant that are due to the Johnson County Commissioner's Office by 4:30 p.m. on October 31st. There's more details in there on how you can send that. We will then take probably 30 days or so to review individually and then have a first public meeting for the Grant Advisory Board that is made up of, I believe, 10 people from around the county that the commissioners have really graciously incorporated them into this process, as it really statutorily is only required for the commissioners to make these decisions. But they wanted to involve all aspects of the county and all government units. So for the most part, they are all participating, with the exception of Greenwood. But they're working together and they will review the applications and then make recommendations to the commissioners, but ultimately it comes before the commissioners. We would like to get the first distributions out by December 16th or make the announcement by the end of the year if possible. It just depends on how many people apply for this grant. I believe we have around 200,000 per year that we're trying to offload according to the statutory requirements. So that hopefully we'll get a lot by October 31st. Any questions?
Good job.
And that's all we have.
That's just information.
Yeah, no action.
I just wanted to make sure we didn't have to.
I move to approve.
We don't need
We
any
don't.
action.
Oh, we don't?
Yeah,
It's
so
just
I-
information.
I asked that same
Ask
question.
that.
I was wondering if we needed to
And
do
if you
anything.
need
We
it.
don't.
Well, I just want you to know I approve.
And we're so happy you do.
Without debate.
Sorry. Acceptance is lowest quote and award of contract pursuant to IC 36-1-12-5 for coating of concrete on east side of West Annex Project,
Move to approve.
Looks like HTH.
Yeah.
HTH contract.
So that would be under his approval. I'll second that.
Have a motion and a second. Any further?
One thing I'm going to ask, is HTH the one that did the courthourse?
No,
No,
It's a
they
different
did.
contractor.
they did this out on the
They
west
did this
side
Okay.
and did a very nice job.
Some of this stuff over on the steps, I saw a couple.
Those-
That we need to be addressed, so.
Wes and I think we've kind of had that. I don't know, is Wes here?
I saw him get up to leave.
Okay, well, I don't blame him. I'd leave too if I could. We probably picked, the steps over there, we're getting some puckering and that's.
Looks like some cracks in
It's
the
a different
concrete.
material, it's a different company, but it's not the company's fault, it's the material fault. I was not aware, and I don't think Wes Harrison was aware at the time that the steps were done of this product. This is a different product, it's It's an acrylic quartz product compared to an acrylic latex product, so this won't do that. On what the step's doing.
No, it looks good out here on
And
the west side.
unfortunately, eventually, what we're gonna have to do is redo those steps with the,
Let's hold off a while.
Yeah.
on doing that.
with the other, but it eventually will crack, come apart.
And did Commissioner Walls say 18A?
HTH contract.
Oh, HT, okay.
That's
Yeah.
who's doing it.
I was gonna say it's $9,325. I thought he said 18A. That's, well, where did he get that number?
Those things aren't working good today. They're running out of battery.
Now they're working.
Did I get a motion?
You got a motion in a second. He made the motion, and I just followed it.
We went
HGH.
all over the place from there.
Yeah.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Resolution 2024-R-16, resolution of the Board of Commissioners of the County of Johnson, Indiana, approving the issuance of general obligation bonds of the county.
Move to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Employee handbook changes.
Well, we won't bore the public with this, so I'll just move to approve.
Second.
I was just gonna, it's just a clerical error to change the part-time cap at 1560 for the hours total for part-time classification purposes, so.
Clerical error. I have a motion and a second. Any further? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Discussion and approval on extension of burn ban in Johnson County.
Well, hopefully you'll only have to hold on for another couple of days till we get some rain coming.
Hopefully we
through.
get some rain.
Wise move. I was out of town. Wise move by you guys to go ahead and call that ban, get it in place, because it has been dry. I've heard. So,
But honestly, when my wife asked me if she could go out and burn before the ban, I thought, oh, wow. I hadn't even thought about it at that point in time, but
but it usually comes
thank
a bit
goodness I have a
earlier.
wife that's more on top of it than I am.
I was returning from Columbus Saturday evening. There was a grass fire along I-65 there, just north of
Called
the
a cigarette.
Edinburgh Mall.
I will say that when we checked the US drought monitor map, at the time the initial ban was put in place, only a small sliver of the southeast part of the county was actually in a drought, and they update those maps weekly on Thursdays, so the Thursday right after we did the initial ban, the entire county is actually now officially in a drought according to the US drought.
And I don't care what they
map, so-
say, we were in a drought in my home back then, because I was afraid the cornfield, if it went up, I was done, because that would have burned everything I had. I'm
Yeah,
telling you.
Stephanie Seasting, Emergency Management Director. I talked to the National Weather Service this morning on this to get kind of an estimate on rain. We're supposed to be getting rain tonight and tomorrow, maybe a half an inch.
That's
So
not
we'll
enough.
do it.
And chance of more rain at the end of the week, but that's a chance. So I just want to let you know, I did talk to them this morning. I called them because I wanted to know.
When are we good through right now?
Right now, it's a 7-day ban, which will expire on Wednesday. Right, we can adjust via motion any changes to what's been proposed, but right now, we're proposing a 30-day ban. You can always rescind it early, so if we get, hopefully, not too much too quickly, because then we got a lot of flooding problems, but if we get some rain that will end the drought, then we can always lift it earlier. I know Kevin's also here to talk about potentially, right now, we do allow campfires as long as they're within a ring measuring 23 by 10. I don't think the park is actually allowing any campfires on the grounds, so we can take that out on the actual ban that goes into effect as well. So that's up for some discussion if you guys want to do that, so.
Yeah, I don't think we should have any fires if, I don't care if you put them in a ring or not, you get a little wind. Yeah, we're gonna
And that's
lose a
what's
lot of
happening on the
stuff.
field fires.
Yeah,
No combines. Well, I'm sure a couple of combines have caught on fire already.
Yeah, they have.
I thought they had, so. But I know I know some of the farming operations have been advised to have a disc and a tractor setting in that field to eliminate that plowed under as quick as they can.
Yeah.
So that's what they've advised them. Now, whether they take that advice or not, I don't know. But I would motion to continue the ban for 30 days. Unless weather changes and
We can
Yeah,
rescind
we
it
can
at
always
that point.
rescind it.
Yeah, I'll
Do you want to
second that.
strike the campfire
Yes, please.
being allowed?
Yeah.
We don't want campfires.
Okay.
We've
There's
put
no point in taking
put a lot
the
of good
chance.
money in the park, improving things. I hate to see it all go down over
All right, we'll take
a
that
little
out.
decision. So I have a motion and a second with the amendment. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie, appreciate it. Claims and credit card under new and old business.
Yeah, I don't have any objection to any of the claims. I did meet with some of the people in the auditor's department this morning to talk about a way that maybe we can streamline some of this. I noticed that, I'll give you an example. The highway department makes 15 purchases at an auto parts dealership, and they issue 15 different checks for each purchase. And I don't know why we can't establish accounts at so many of these places. Maybe establish it under the county so that now different agencies could purchase, and then they can separate it out so that we get the expenditure allocations. But either that or lift the limits on their credit cards and let them buy it on a credit card where we issue one check. I don't know, but my word, the auditor's department, they're generating a ton of checks every
Yeah,
month.
we need to streamline that somehow.
Yeah. So anyway, they're gonna look into it, I think. I move to approve.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion carries. Commissioner minutes for approval, 8/26/2024 regular meeting, 9/9/2024 regular meeting.
Move to approve.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion carries. Almost got you under opposed. I said that quick, didn't I?
I'm still for it. I want to get them, they were good.
Any public comment? Please, 5 minutes per person, but
I got one comment I'm gonna make. I really want the community to reach out and say a prayer for Chief Funkhauser. He's gone through some major health issues. What a great man. And to be stricken down like that, let's just hope he gets a full recovery. And I would ask everyone to reach out and say a prayer for that man. So his family and him are gonna need him. So that's all I've got.
And again, we are blessed, absolutely blessed in Johnson County to have the leadership we do in the areas that we have it in our public service, in our fire, our sheriff's office, just everywhere. I meet with commissioners at least twice a month from other counties under the ICC and the Anne County Commissioners. And we just I don't think our citizens realize how really good our citizens have it in what we have here in Johnson County. And it's not us. It has nothing to do with us. It has to do with everybody that serves in this county. It has to do with the taxpayers in this county. It's a whole effort by everybody that makes us who we are and how we react to things and how we do things. And I've said it before, I'm going to say it again, it's a true honor and a privilege and a blessing to serve the people of Johnson County because you all make it easy. And I want to thank you all for that. But anyway, thank you for that. Keep us in your prayers. We'll keep you all in our prayers and we'll go from there. If all hearts and minds are free and clear.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. We're adjourned. Thank you very much.